1, just running some repeater tests. First test is from Marine and Prairie. Testing from Hawthorne and Marine. Testing from Inglewood and Marine. Testing from Marine and Tomboy. That's where the train station is at on Marine, right near TRW. Marine and Aviation. This is Staff 1 doing a repeater test. Testing from Chili's, which is at the Manhattan Mall on HT. Sepulveda and Marine. All these tests have been with 1 watt. This is a test on 4 watts. In front of Macy's on Sepulveda at 1 watt. Rosecrans and Sepulveda at the corner where Fry's is at 1 watt. Same location at 4 watts. 1, 2, 3, 4 watts, Rosecrans and Sepulveda in front of Fry's on HT. Testing from mobile radio at about 20 watts. Hughes Way and Sepulveda at 1 watt. Sepulveda and El Segundo, 1 watt. Sepulveda and El Segundo on the mobile, 20 watts. Again, El Segundo, and just turning on to El Segundo from Sepulveda at 4 watts. Going to have to switch HTs because the battery's dying. Nash Street, El Segundo, 1 watt. Just going underneath the underpass. Douglas Street and El Segundo at 1 watt. Douglas Street and El Segundo at 4 watts. Just passing the Air Force Base on my left on El Segundo. Aviation, El Segundo, 1 watt. Aviation and El Segundo at 4 watts. Aviation and El Segundo at 4 watts. Aviation and El Segundo on the mobile at 20 watts. Aviation and, I'm at the 405 entrance over on El Segundo Boulevard, coming up to the underpass. La Cienega Boulevard. Ocean Gate Boulevard and El Segundo. Oceanica on 1 watt.
I'm on now on the Connect System radio, CS700. I'm at 1 watt, 1 watt. Just now switched to 4 watts on the Connect Systems radio, Ramona and El Segundo. This is a test of the repeater with the new antenna. Hawthorne and El Segundo, this would be 4 watts. Now back to 1 watt, 1 watt. Prairie and El Segundo, 1 watt, Prairie and El Segundo. Prairie and El Segundo at 4 watts. 4 watts stationary at this point. Yukon and El Segundo at 4 watts, Yukon and El Segundo. El Segundo and Crenshaw at 4 watts, El Segundo and Crenshaw. El Segundo and Crenshaw at 1 watt, 1 watt. El Segundo and Crenshaw at 1 watt. El Segundo and Van Ness at 1 watt, El Segundo and Van Ness. El Segundo and Van Ness at 4 watts. El Segundo and Van Ness at 4 watts. El Segundo and Western at 4 watts. El Segundo and Western at 4 watts. El Segundo and Western at 1 watt. El Segundo and Western, 1 watt. El Segundo and Normandy at 1 watt. El Segundo and Normandy, 1 watt. Segundo and Normandy at 4 watts. El Segundo and Normandy, 4 watts. Side note, Union 76 is $3.29 for the cheapest stuff. El Segundo and Vermont at 1 watt. El Segundo and Vermont at 1 watt. El Segundo and Vermont at 4 watts. 4 watts. Southbound on Vermont. Rosecrans and Vermont at 1 watt. Rosecrans and Vermont, 1 watt. Rosecrans and Vermont at 4 watts on the Connect Systems radio. 4 watts, Rosecrans and Vermont. Vermont and Marine on 4 watts. Now on 1 watt. And actually coming up to Redondo Beach and Vermont. 1 watt. Redondo Beach and Vermont at 4 watts. 4 watts. Vermont and Gardena Boulevard, 1 watt. Vermont and Gardena. Vermont and Gardena, 4 watts. 4 watts. Artesian, Vermont at 4 watts. Artesian, Vermont, 4 watts. 1 watt. Artesian, Vermont, 1 watt. 1 watt. Back on track. On Vermont, at Artesia, 1 watt. Vermont and Artesia would be at 4 watts. Vermont and 182nd Street at 4 watts. Vermont and 182nd at 4 watts. Vermont and 182nd at 1 watt. At 1 watt. Vermont and 190th, 1 watt. Vermont and 190th at 1 watt. Vermont and 190th at 4 watts. 4 watts, Vermont and 190th. This is Staff 1 doing a repeater test, a coverage test off of an HT going around the city of Gardena. 190th in Normandy at 4 watts. 190th in Normandy at 4 watts. 190th in Normandy at 1 watt. 1 watt, at Vermont, at 190th and Normandy, sitting at the light. Western and 190th on 1 watt, Western Avenue on 1 watt. Western and 190th on 4 watts. Western and 190th at 4 watts. This is a test. This is test. Staff 1 is testing the Gardena repeater, doing a perimeter check. Vaness and 190th. Vaness and 190th. 1 watt. Vaness and 190th at 4 watts. Vaness and 190th at 4 watts. 190th in Crenshaw. 190th in Crenshaw at 1 watt. 190th in Crenshaw at 4 watts. 190th and Crenshaw at 4 watts. Right now I'm on Prairie and 190th, which is past our border, but I'm doing a perimeter check here. This is at 4 watts, I believe. And again at 1 watt. 1 watt, Prairie and 190th. Northbound on Prairie on 1 watt. 182nd and Prairie. 182nd and Prairie. Prairie and Artesia. Prairie and Artesia 1 watt. And Prairie and Artesia on 4 watts. 4 watts. Redondo Beach and Prairie. Redondo Beach and Prairie. 4 watts. Redondo Beach and Prairie at 1 watt. Redondo Beach and Prairie, 1 watt. Prairie and Manhattan Beach on 1 watt. Prairie and Manhattan Beach on 4 watts. Repeater output is set to 22 watts. 22 watts. Marine and Prairie at 4 watts. Marine and Prairie, 4 watts. Marine and Prairie at 1 watt. 1 watt. Test will be ending shortly. Okay, police action at Lamouly and Marine. The street is closed off by the Sheriff's Department. Almost complete with test. Traffic was stopped. I think the car turned over. Streets are blocked off by the Sheriff's Department. Looking for alternative route home. End of test. End of test. This is Staff 1. Just completed a perimeter test for the repeater around the city of Gardena. This has been a test. Staff 1 is ending the test right now, and I am clear.